All right, looks like it's slowing down. I think we can probably go ahead and get started and let these folks trickle in during our first couple of slides. And quite a bit to cover today, and well, it's trickling in pretty heavy. So maybe I can ramble on for a couple more seconds and let everyone get on here.
And
Andrew,
Kai,
are we recording?
yeah, you know what? We were recording the whole time. We'll cut off the first 30 minutes when we go to put this up on the
Okay, I
internet.
wondered, I wasn't sure. Okay, that's cool. We are recording this webinar, slides and the webinar recording will be available within 48 hours of the webinar. And I think we'll go ahead and get started. It looks like it's slowing down pretty heavy now. So thanks everyone for joining. This is a webinar, Strengthening Our Workforce, the Critical Role of Wages in Weatherization. We're here to talk about wages, the impact of wages, on our weatherization folks. But we're also here to launch the 2024 NASCSP WAP wage survey. So let me go ahead and talk about that a little bit. This is our agenda for today. We'll talk a little bit about the first wage survey that NASCSP did a couple years ago. We'll launch the 2024 wage survey, and we'll also hear a little bit from our grantees about the impact of wage initiatives and from our national partners, a little bit about why they support this effort and the benefits for both them and participants of the survey. And we'll end the conversation today with questions, next steps, things like that. If time allows, we'll also kind of explore where the survey is housed on the NASCSP website. Our speakers today are myself, Kai Garvin. We also have Andrea Schroer from NASCSP, Jeff Wilcox from the Vermont State of Vermont Office of Economic Opportunity. I hope I got that right, Jeff. We also have Allison Moe from the National Renewable Energy Lab, Christopher Small from the National Community Action Partnership, and Pagan Pagioni from the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. And before I get started on the actual agenda, I do want to launch a quick poll just to kind of gauge who's in the room, whether it's grantee, sub-grantee, contractor, training center, federal partners, etc. We got quite a few on the call, so I'm going to let everyone click that button, or at least most of everyone click that button. Lots of sub-grantees on the call. That's great. That's the audience I was looking for. It's great to have y'all here. Still got a couple of answers rolling in. I want everybody to be able to participate in this. We're pretty good. 84%. That's a good poll number. That's rare on Zooms. I'm going to end it and we'll share the results real quick so everyone can see. Lots of sub-grantees on the call. Like I said, that is great to see. All right. Thank you everyone for participating in that. And now we'll get started. Andrea's going to start us off and talk about a little bit about 2021, the wage survey we completed then, and the results of that. Andrea?
Thank you so much, Kai, and thank you to all of the grantees and sub-grantees and partners that joined us today. So just to give you a little history, prior to joining NASCSP and serving on the NASCSP board for 2 terms, I was the WAP manager in Georgia. And while serving in that role, I started noticing several applications were coming through from our local WAP workers to have service, weatherization service, which required state approval. And I was both disturbed and concerned that our local WAP workers working so hard to serve our low-income families were able to income qualify for the programs in which they work so hard to serve. After joining NASCSP in February of 2020, we were acutely aware that the majority of the grantees felt that workforce was probably the #1 issue or potential barrier to continuing on the success of the weatherization program. So NASCSP responded by forming a workforce development working group in May of 2020. Jeff Wilcox from Vermont is one of our founding members and has stayed on for 4 years now. Thank you, Jeff. But we had representation from every region within the country. And when we formed, we prioritized what we wanted to work on. And their #1 priority was we need a national WAP wage survey. We are hemorrhaging people that we are spending a lot of time and a lot of dollars training, maybe 18 months training an energy auditor or a QCI, and for $1 an hour more, they were leaving for basic construction jobs. So that was one of our primary goals. So we created a survey and we launched that survey. And this was completely voluntary. We had 27 grantees support the survey, and we had 286 sub-grantees respond to the survey. So you're going to hear about 2 of our original working group members, how they took the data that we provided to them. And I think what is really important is how they use that data to make significant changes in their program that increase their worker retention at the local level. And ultimately, the end result was increased production and spend. So a lot of good things that you're going to hear from Vermont and Kentucky in just a moment. But we also wanted to, in the next slide, Kai, say thank you to the grantees that supported and encouraged all of their sub-grantees to participate in the survey. So we delivered a couple things to say thank you. First off, we partnered with our friends over at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and we got assistance on data analysis and best practices. And in addition, we worked together to customize WAP career flyers. So every state that participated got a customized career flyer based on their wage data in both English and Spanish. And in addition, we sent the state level summaries for all the local job classifications to all of the WAP managers. In addition, we worked with NRAIL to create a living wage calculator. So if you were at a local agency level and you could select a county in which you served, you could find out what it was to pay a living wage within that county. We also created best practices gleaned from the 286 local survey responses and delivered national trainings on best practices to help improve recruitment, retention, and partnership. And in the next slide, Kai, I wanted to just hammer home the importance of paying fair, competitive wages. In both retention and recruitment, competitive, solid, good pay, ranked #1 from all of the 286 responses. So I think that's a really important data point to take home. So with that said, I am thrilled to pass this back to Kai Garvin to announce the launching of our second National WAP Wage and Workforce Survey. And I hope that at the end of this, after hearing how it's going to be conducted, the benefits that you'll receive from that, I hope that most of the grantees and the sub-grantees on this call will be willing to participate. So with that, I'll hand this back to you, Kai.
Figure out my controls. Thank you, Andrea. That was great. All right, now for the reason we're all here. It is official. We are launching the wage survey. We've been working on this for the past few months. Many of you may have heard and through the grapevine or through different webinars and meetings. So we are officially here. We're starting. First thing I want to do, I really want to shout out to the Andrea mentioned when we first started this, we had a workforce development working group. This is our current working group. We've worked since November. We've had monthly meetings since November. to develop this wage survey. We've looked, through different surveys that other states have put on and our previous survey, and we really put together a great thing here. So shout out to all those folks on our working group. Like I said, we've been working since November. This is kind of a brief timeline of what we've accomplished so far. We went through survey development, a deep and review through weatherization stakeholders, national partners, sub-grantees. We had a major review of this survey to try to get. We were looking for ease of use on the participant end to encourage participation. This survey should be really easy to use, really easy to fill out. And we're also looking to collect, usable data. So that was also important to us. We received approval from DOE in April, May time. So that really got us into webinar mode, and we are here today at the launch. So the NASCSP workforce and wage survey, I think, the purpose of it is to enhance the understanding, support the growth of weatherization. Gathering this essential data, I mean, this is something that changes pretty quick in most industries. Wages can change, in 2 to 3 months a lot of times. So just keeping up with that data helps with our recruitment and retention efforts. So we're seeking participation from the local service providers. We're really pushing to have that local service provider data. That's the important piece. You're going to be contributing to a comprehensive report that shapes future training, resources, strategic decisions. All of this can go and really shape the future of weatherization. So the more input we have, the better. Like I said, who should participate? We're looking for those sub-grantees that receive weatherization funding. Where, the surveys may need to be completed, a joint effort between your local weatherization staff, whether it's the program manager or maybe a coordinator or somebody that has all of the details on the weatherization side. You also may want to bring in your fiscal manager, possibly HR. There are a few timeline related questions that HR would easily be able to answer. We do expect the local managers to drive the process and take the initial stab at it first, but they may need support. So that fiscal support and human resources support is very important. Grantees, for my grantees on the call, the biggest support you can give is spreading the word. They're encouraging your network to fill out the survey. The more, the better out of your network. What we're asking. So these are the 3 big bullets of what the survey's looking into. We're looking for that crucial data on workforce development, recruitment, retention, wages and benefits. That's part of the name of the survey, so it is a big piece. But we're also looking to source best practices, challenges. What do we need to look into for the future? What can we share with others who need your best practices? So it's an extensive survey, and we're looking to really get a lot of great information out of it. So this is an example of what we're really, the core positions in weatherization that we're targeting. So these are all the positions used in weatherization. They have the 4 filled technical positions, admin intake, program director, specialist or coordinator, and HVAC and solar. We're seeing a lot more HVAC and solar in our program and being hired on crews and at agencies. So, this survey this year, we're looking to capture a little more data on a couple extra positions. So how will the data be used? So we're looking on the wage side, we're looking to develop state level job averages. This is also something Andrea had shown off the career flyers. It's something that's used for the career flyers to highlight, wages in your state. Those career flyers were customizable. So, by collecting this data and having it handy, you could also create your own customizable career flyer for your local agency. The insights from the best practice sourcing, it'll help craft career ladders, update other best practices, give us more recruitment materials, and strengthen some of those retention strategies. I think we analyze where we're at paying wages. We determine if we're paying a fair wage, and we can advertise that, and it'll really bring in more weatherization professionals. We will share the summary state level data with a few national partners, and your state grantee will have that data. We're going to use it for case studies, provide some summary data to federal funding partners. With that being said, your privacy is important. That is something that we are passionate about. We don't want to discourage anyone from participating. So only NASCSP and your grantee administrator will have access to the raw data. We'll be the only ones that know who it came from, where it came from, and all of that. So for the resource development, creating these reports, case studies, and others, we're going to remove the agency name, address, zip code, and summarize a lot of the data by state. That will ensure your privacy, and I hope that encourages participation, because that is something I understand the concern there. So speaking of participation, why should you participate? I think number one, workforce development, specifically retention and recruitment, are a barrier, and they continue to be a barrier in weatherization. We're having trouble keeping our employees. We're having trouble recruiting new employees. So one of the number one reasons, like Andrea spoke on, for that retention and recruitment issue is wages. So this will really drive some of that recruitment and retention efforts. We can't compete effectively. That's something I want to throw out there. We can't compete effectively to recruit, if we're not aware of what we're paying versus others and other industries and such. Participating organizations will have access to the state summaries, best practices, and case studies. Like Andrea mentioned earlier, we tried to create several resources out of the last wage survey. Those career flyers are used all over. I've seen them. A little bit of pride. I swell up with a little bit of pride. I see them sometimes at job fairs and things like that. So participating organizations will have access to that resource also. Time spent preparing and submitting the survey is an eligible use of DOE WAP TNTA funds. There's a note here. There's always fine print with some of these things, but you want to make sure just to check your TNTA plan, check with your grantee, always double check before you determining TNTA funds. But there should be an option for evaluation of program effectiveness. DOE allows that to be used by TNTA funds. So benefits of participation. I just wanted to continue on with a little bit of the participation here. The state-based average wage data. So that is for those career flyers, other recruitment efforts. For those of you who have explored Green Workforce Connect, you may see the wages there. It's good to, they're using that to build that platform also. So there will be an increased understanding of the impact of compensation. I think a lot of folks who participated in the last one, it really opened our eyes to, the differences between industries. I could make so much money in weatherization, but I'm looking at fast food or stocking shelves at a local business or something, and they were paying better. So that really opens our eyes when we do these studies to see the impact of wages on our workforce. Along with that, we're looking for those best practices, challenges, opportunities, innovation. So the more voices we have, the more input we have on these, we can really make a great best practices, resource development for recruiting and retention. So, and like I said earlier, easier onboarding to Green Workforce Connect. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Their IREC is, I'm hoping most people on this call have seen Green Workforce Connect. If not, we'll hear Pagan here in a little bit and we can talk about it more. That platform is using, the most up-to-date wage data possible to increase those recruiting numbers and help with those recruiting efforts. So it's important to have the most accurate, up-to-date wage data we can get. So how to participate? This is pretty easy. There are instructions. There's a how-to video. There's this launch webinar, PDF practice survey. There's a lot of resources to help with participation in this for this survey. So there'll be a launch webinar on our website, like I mentioned earlier. We also have a how-to video. If someone could click and throw that link in the chat, that would be great. That how-to video will explain the survey itself. It'll allow, it'll clarify some questions you may have. It'll kind of show off some of the different logic, things like that. Survey instructions. I have a detailed instruction booklet for, some of the little finer nuances of the survey, like job descriptions, what we're looking for wage wise. A lot of this will be covered in that how-to video. So I encourage everyone to, especially the folks that are on this webinar now, to load up that how-to video. It's a quick 27 minutes, I believe. And you can download it and fast forward through anything I may be rambling about. And the PDF practice survey, I think that's a big piece because of the collaboration needed to fill this out. It is fillable, so it can be shared digitally, filled out digitally by multiple staff members, like your fiscal or HR folks and your weatherization managers. It can also be printed, used that way, but it is a great practice survey to kind of get lined up before you actually enter the online survey. Again, I left this here just to kind of highlight the different resources that are available. How-to video, pretty important if you've never done online surveys. It does go through some of the finer points of, this is what this is doing, click here, etc. The instructions are important. They cover deeper clarifications and details about each question. We will have this launch webinar video posted along with the webinar slides. And there's outreach messaging. So this kind of gears back to my national partners, grantees, and others. That outreach messaging can be used by sub-grantees that want to encourage, maybe y'all do a monthly meeting with your, whole weatherization network. So you could use it to encourage your sister agencies to also fill out the survey. You can, once you go through the resources and you feel comfortable, use the PDF practice survey, and then you can complete it online. A highlight here, one big thing, we're looking for only one wage survey per organization. So make sure and talk with your WAP staff, make sure and talk with fiscal and determine who's going to be the one to input it online, and make sure we're not getting multiple versions. It's not a big deal. It's just easier to sort if we only have one per organization. And a big deadline. We're letting it run longer, this survey. We're letting it run quite a bit longer. So we're going through September. Earlier the better, I will say. The quicker you can get this information to us, the quicker we can start analyzing and sharing with IREC, or however it needs to be done. So but the deadline is September 13th, 2024. So that gives you a couple months to get it filled out. And like I was saying earlier, grantee participation. I think this is, key is the outreach messaging. Get your network involved. Encourage them. I did have a little note here, or require. That's at your discretion. But encourage that participation. Really get your whole network involved. That'll be key. Getting the whole network. We really will get better data if we can get the entire network from a state. That way our state averages are really making sense versus one or two agencies out of a 12 agency network. And again, submit the responses before September 13th. I just want to really throw that out there so we can get all the data in before then. And once we're through with the survey, once we're feel comfortable with all the data we've received, grantees, you will receive the raw wage survey data. So you'll have that raw data. You'll have all that information. If there's opportunity, that's when you may follow up with some agencies that did not participate. If you want to encourage those, twist their arm a little bit and get them to fill out this survey, we can talk about when that time comes. Then it's recommended to de-identify and summarize the data. So before sharing with your local agencies, you really don't want to cause a disturbance in the network or anything. So it's recommended to just go ahead and de-identify that, make it a little anonymous, and then you can share that, summarize, and share that data. NASCSP will be conducting survey analysis and case studies. For those grantees that are interested, just reach out to us, and we'll have a better idea later down the road about what case studies and analysis may be coming from that, and how you may be able to help, or what you may be able to get from us out of that. So big thing here, questions, concerns, please reach out to me, whether you're a grantee, sub-grantee, training center, contractor, or curiosity, just go ahead and reach out to me and I can answer most of your questions on this wage survey. There will also be open office hours. I've set up 2 times here. I found these open office hours work, but we also need engagement for them to work. So if you're filling out the survey or interested in participating, but may have questions or concerns or something like that, feel free to come chit chat, and we can just sit and talk, and I can try to sell you on participation. So that link is available on the slides, and here shortly I will go ahead and post it in the chat also. So we have a lofty goal. We are seeking participation from 40 grantees. That'll be 40 different states, territories, districts. Lofty goal. That's about 3/4 of y'all, and 400 local weatherization service providers or sub-grantees. That's pretty, I think that's doable. That's a lot more, not as lofty as the states, but we are looking for as much input as we get. We plan to build a map with all the wage data, and we want to make that entire map just filled up with all of this data. So, and for my last poll, before I hand it off, I see that. Let's see. Just a quick, are you gonna participate? Do you plan on participating already? Maybe you're still not sold yet. For those maybes, you may hear from me. Just beware. I don't see any no's, so that's always good. We're gonna let this poll go for a second real quick. Looks like it's slowing down. Catching people right around lunchtime in some areas, so they may be eating or something. Cool. I think I'll go ahead and start it. We are slowed down pretty heavy. I'll share the results. Lots of yeses. I love to see it. I'm gonna hold y'all to that. No, just kidding. But some maybes, I understand that, and one no. That's also understandable. So. And now I want to pass it off to Jeff Wilcox from the state of Vermont to talk a little bit about the impact of the wages in Vermont.
All right, thanks, Kai. I was just typing in the chat because I couldn't participate in the poll. So as Andrea mentioned, I've been on the group for 4 years, which it's amazing how doesn't seem like that long, but I guess it was. It's like a college career that goes slow when you're in school, but boy, it seemed to really fly by. Anyway, could you go to the next slide? Okay, so we participated in the first survey, wage survey, and we'd been doing surveys with our agencies prior for multiple years. We were seeing challenges to our program that I listed here, and a lot of them pointed to lack of capacity or understaffing of the crew position. So some of the challenges we were facing all at once were we were having very ambitious ramp up required of our program. From the various funding sources, we had a huge ARPA allotment of funds, ARPA LIHEAP. We've always had state weatherization funds. Then we got the bill funds, which we're just barely starting, and we'll be spending those really quickly, thanks to our ramp up that was resulted from these wage increases. And then IRA funds we'll be receiving. But we've been getting significant funds for 5 years now, and we've been underspending anywhere from 10 to 20% for the last 6-7 years statewide. We just weren't serving the clients that we had the money to serve, so we were under weatherizing. We weren't helping as many people as we had the funds to do. And when we looked at our agencies, it was all the positions were always full except crew positions, and we're a totally crew-based state at this point, looking to add some subcontractors, but the crew position was the vacant position. We also had limited subcontractors in our program at various things with home repairs, vermiculite remediation, asbestos contractors, heat pumps, wooden pellet stoves. Some of these things most of those were funding with other funds, but heating contractors were also a shortage and a bottleneck. And as always, challenges with the DOE allowable cost per unit. In Vermont, the 8,000 ACPU is about half of what we need to properly weatherize a house. So all these things were challenges that we were facing and still face some of these. Next slide. So to hone in more on the workforce challenge, like I said, significant, I didn't say it, but I'm saying it now, significant turnover at the crew position. We saw some agencies that turned over 70% of their crew in one given year. You know, that's a lot of TNTA funds in and out the door. And you can't run an efficient agency with that high turnover. Like I said, crew wages were low. Some were posting new crew wages at $15 to $16 an hour in 2021. On average, we had a 10 to 20% vacancy rate at the crew position. We know each agencies when they submit their budgets, how many crew they need to complete the number of units, and that's what we based that understaffing off of. They didn't have enough crew employed to complete the work. Some, like Andrea mentioned, unfortunately, some of our workers were eligible for weatherization, and that's just a shame, and hence the unsmiley face there. Morale, as we all know, can vary regardless of wages, but it sure didn't help. When we went out, people would complain to us about wages on the crews. And often the application pool when the agencies posted crew jobs was poor. Applicants often didn't even pass the background check, so they weren't even allowed to work if they could be hired. They just, yeah. Next page, next slide. So the NASCSP wage survey came along at the right time, along with our wages in Vermont. We were able to compare them to other states who participated in this poll, and we could see, you know, it helped tell the story, explain the issue. We were underpaying crews a lot under what other states were, and I think we all know who has successful programs, and we could tell the successful programs paid more, and we were are a pretty well-paying state at the other positions, but the crew wages on that survey comparing to other states really showed a picture. Some better than others. Don't want to stereotype all, but it was curious that the folks that are underpaying were, you know, consistently the underperformers in our network. So I want to note this, you know, most people in the agencies realized crew work was the hardest and most critical and important work in weatherization, but that didn't translate into good paying jobs at their agencies because the crews weren't well paid. Next page. I want to say page. So on July 1st, 2022, our state office instituted the minimum and prevailing wage for crew and crew chief. So to explain a little more, we didn't follow the Davis-Bacon means of doing this because we knew the shortfalls of that. Even though the intent was good with Davis-Bacon, it just added a lot of administrative burden. We wanted to do it in a way that the money could go to wages. So we pushed it through all of our weatherization grants with the local agencies. We have multiple funding sources, and each grant stipulated the wage and the criteria of how it needed to be done, which were at that time. They've since gone up since then. $20.16 per hour minimum wage plus 42.5% fringe crew rate. So that's pretty significant for a total compensation of, I think it was like $28 and change. Crew chiefs, excuse me, $2 an hour higher than the crew. We worked with our agencies and let them know we're thinking of this months in advance. And by the time we rolled it out, they'd asked if we could add in auditors and QCI into this minimum wage, and we did. But I want to concentrate on the crew and the crew chief because that was the biggest issue we were trying to address. But it resulted in an increase of like $4 an hour for new crew people at some agencies at the July 1st grants that basically started this minimum wage. Really important here. We provided the dollars to pay the crews more. Basically, we increased our allowable cost per unit up to 14,000, and it since has gone up $1,500. We did this by braiding. Sorry, I got to get the word right. Braiding our state funds to DOE funds to get that 8,000 up to a 14,000. And we've since gone this year, we're going to be braiding LIHEAP funds to DOE and bill funds to get that ACPU up to a point where you can pay people a good wage. And again, we implement it in a simple way. So once a year, our office once or twice a year, asks the agencies to provide the backup that shows they're paying all these applicable workers the minimum wage and fringe. And we did find a couple instances where people weren't paid, and it wasn't on purpose by the agencies. They quickly paid them what they were owed, and some folks were owed like $6,000-7,000 of back pay, and they were paid. So next slide. So lessons learned. We always learn lessons in weatherization, hopefully. And how did it go? At the start, before it came into law, agencies pushed back at first. Some thought, oh, we have union crews, and the union's not going to like this. There were some discussions. Well, our Head Start workers and other workers at our agencies, they don't have the funds for an increase. This is going to cause issues, and we said, you know what, this is going to happen. We're going to work with you to make it go smoothly, but we need to manage our weatherization program to the weatherization rules and the weatherization funding that we have to do this. So if you want to be in weatherization, this is what we're going to do. And soon after it hit the streets, every agency, and we've got 6, came to us and said, thank you. This has provided more and better candidates for crew jobs in 1 week than we've seen in 6 months of these jobs being posted. That right there speaks a lot when every agency says, good job. This was great. So our crew vacancy in 1 year has dropped from 20% to less than 5%. Can you say that it was 100% due to these wage increases? No. Can you say the majority of that result was due to wage increases? I would bet my house that that's the case. It took 6 months to see major results, and we continue to see the results 2 years later. And that's on the next slide. I put that slide together recently, and it kind of shocked me. It was much better than I thought it was. So due to the nuances of the minimum wage and fringe requirements, it did take talking to workers about compensation in a new way to include total compensation, not just your salary, because with the fringe component, agencies had to ensure there were certain requirements that if a worker had a spouse that they used health insurance, that health insurance benefit the agency would have paid didn't count towards their compensation. So they had to add in salary to make up for that health insurance compensation, which, as you can imagine, would cause a new person who wasn't taking the health insurance because their spouse had it a higher wage than, say, somebody who's been on the crew for 3 years, in which all know can lead to some tense conversations. But when the agency sat down and talked to the folks about, hey, this is how it works, those tense drama conflicts went away quickly when everybody understood how it worked. Next slide. I'm going to jump to the next slide. it tells the story a little better and is simpler. And basically, so I compared the year prior to our wage increase to this program year that we're completing in 12 days. I projected our spending after 11 months of spending, so it's pretty accurate. And basically 3 categories. Percentage of increase in crew workers increased 43% since the minimum wage. The increase in units increased 50%, or 338. And the increase in spending was 53% increase in spending, which is $6.8 million. And 95% of that I would attribute to an increase in wages, which caused an increase in crew workers, which caused an increase in the homes being weatherized. And I also want to note, it's important, I guess I should have added to this year, all but one of our agencies has been within their ACPU all year long. You know, they're performing weatherization efficiently and effectively within budget, which is a dramatic increase than prior years, when, you know, they had turnover and crews coming and going, and you just can't work efficiently in those circumstances. So it's been the best thing we've done here for our program and clients and workers since I've been here, and that's been 17 years. So I highly recommend the wage survey, and states that are crew based and you have vacancies causing problems. A minimum wage has been a godsend to us. So that's basically all I have.
That's great, Jeff. I'm gonna back up a slide just to give folks a sneak peek. This is kind of what he was talking about there, and it's got the actual numbers. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I do want to say, when I was talking to Jeff about the success that Vermont has had for a blog that NASCSP did, one quote stood out, and I know he may have already said it, but he said it's a no-brainer. You know, it's done nothing but it's been nothing but successful since they've done it. So
this slide, Kai, thanks. I added it because one of the change we went from prior to the implementation of that minimum wage, agencies were allowed to do our 5 local agencies could do multifamily, 5 or more. And we brought in a statewide multifamily agency to do the multis, and the 5 locals could only do 1 to 4. So I tried to make it apples to apples, and it is. I took all multifamily weatherization from that 6th provider out. So the data is apples to apples, and you know how data can
yeah,
change things
yeah,
and
I
not
think
actually tell the truth, but this is truthful. So,
and it's great to see. I mean, that's a lot of folks want to see. You know, we can talk about job satisfaction, and I'll talk about it shortly. But you know, having that data showing, hey, production's gone up, hiring's gone up, retention's gone up. Like,
yep.
You know, it's hard to disprove the fact that wages are important in this industry. Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much. That was great. Kelly Reynolds was not available today. She's also part of our workforce development working group. I'm hoping I can speak in her place and not booger this up too bad. But Kentucky also, about the same time Jeff was working on his his efforts in Vermont, Kentucky was doing the same down there. And I think it's important to highlight both of these because they are very different approaches. And, you know, that's something to consider when you're looking at these wages and considering minimum wage and things like that. Do what's best for your state, do what's best for your network, you know, get their feedback. And that's important. And getting that buy-in is great. So Kentucky also recognized a wage gap when they were doing the wage study. There was a huge wage gap between fast food, construction, several other industries. You know, stocking shelves is paying pretty well nowadays. Uh, Shoppers, there's the delivery and the personal shopper that does the little thing in the stores, and um, those are good paying positions. So that was really highlighted when Kentucky, took a look at what they're paying statewide, and they took that and decided to really do something with it. So they collaborated with their subgrantees. They, made sure they were getting feedback. Kelly told me they also had some pushback with, some of this, that, the same kind of issues, like I can't pay these folks more than I pay this, this grant, and things like that. So, um, Kentucky really worked to collaborate, see what was best for their network, see what would work for every agency. Um, they used our wage study. They created a career path that they kind of mimicked what we saw earlier on the career flyer. It created a career path with minimum pay standards and incentives for those certifications that most folks in WAP are looking to get, the energy auditor, quality control inspector, and things like that. And I think this really, the easiness of what they've done here. This is a snip right out of their newest state plan, and this is the career path. It's requires a minimum wage, incentive ladder for obtaining EA and QCI. So that's really where the two bottom rows here, when you're getting those energy auditor QCI certifications. Kentucky also, along with this, has a pretty in-depth, really detailed training plan. They have a pretty great laid out training plan in their state plan. So that also kind of lays out, those EA and QCI certifications, and then it falls back to this on what those positions will be paid. For anybody who's trying to grab a snippet or something, I'll leave this up for a second. But I think the impact, and I think Jeff touched on a lot of these, but I know Kentucky, like I was talking with Kelly, and she talked about being in the field and doing some just infield work, and whether it was monitoring or training, but she heard stories of just job satisfaction, folks that wanted to stick around because they were just a lot happier with just knowing where they're going in their career, what it's looking like, the future of what that career looks like. So it's got an extra layer of support for their professionals. It's encouraged professional development, and that job satisfaction is key. When your workforce is happy, things run smoothly. So I mean, that's kind of a given. So they've been able to keep a lot more of their folks on staff. So some of that what's the word? Some of that knowledge that's been gained over the years, that knowledge is being able to be passed down to those new folks. We're not losing, all that institutional knowledge that some of these weatherization professionals have gained over the years, and it's being able to be passed down, to all of our new employees too. And they've also had an increase in production and work quality. I thought that was cool to see the work quality piece of that. Like, Jeff's got the numbers to prove production. Maybe after we see some monitors and things, maybe we'll see work quality numbers also going up and stuff like that. So, like I mentioned earlier, I did speak on, we did write a little blog in NASCSP here, both Vermont and Kentucky. So you can see that at the top link. But there's also a great success story, and I know Deuce was on. I saw him jump on. I hope he's still here. But there's a great success story from Southwest Georgia CAC, where they were able to use where they were able to use the wage data that we collected in 2021, and he was able to after going through leadership and board and things like that, he was able to get better pay for his staff, and that's also helped with his recruitment, retention, and production. So I encourage you to go check out these blogs. They're a great short read, and they tell great stories. Oh, I had another poll, and it's not it's not here. So in the chat, let's do this. Do you have a workforce development story you want to share? Does anyone else have a success story? This is really me just trying to, you know, uh, scout out some success stories that we can write about or highlight or share with other folks who want to maybe do some of the efforts that you're doing. And I don't have a poll set up. I did miss one. So we will, if you could throw that in the chat, feel free to email me. If you've got a great success story, shoot me an email. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to write about it and share it with others. It's great to see. And I'm just maybe if we leave this up for a second, it'll get people thinking. And we're about to move in really to an open discussion portion and Q&A part of our webinar. So it'll be great to kind of everyone think about maybe some success stories you have, whether it's wages or other workforce development success stories. I'm all for hearing them all. And so, yeah, we're getting into the discussion part. This next part, we're really going to kind of open the floor to our national partners, let them speak. I mentioned who we have from the national partners earlier, but you can see it's Allison Moe, Christopher Small, and Pagan Pajoni. And I think we have enough time. If y'all want to do a brief introduction, that is fine. I will pick on somebody if I have to. But we'll get started with a little discussion panel here, and I have questions here, but please throw your questions out for our national partners on the call or for myself. After this, we're going to go into the Q&A portion of the webinar anyway. So if we want to go ahead and start getting those rolling in, that's perfectly fine. Chris, I saw you unmute. You got voluntold. If you just want to introduce yourself briefly, the national partners, we can kind of move from there.
Great. Thanks, Kai. I'm Chris Small. I'm the Senior Associate of Weatherization Workforce Development with NCAP, and it's good to be with you here this afternoon, or still could be morning on the West Coast if you're still over there. We're glad to see such a great number of participants this afternoon on this webinar, and I'm always amazed at the information from our network and group of panelists that we have here. I wanted to briefly put a plug in for the NCAP National Conference that's coming up at the end of August in Seattle. It is our 60th anniversary. And I might ask if one of my colleagues who I know is on the call here, if they would drop that registration link into the chat. We have had an aggressive sign up rate right now. And so I just encourage you, if there's going to be some really great energy sessions this year at our conference, as always. So we hope that you can build that in. If you're a sub-grantee, build it into your time and your schedule. These 5 guiding questions that you see here in the boxes in front of you really are the why. We've identified the who, what, the where, the when. These are about the why. And my experience is that the why is the most important thing. I wanted to jump on this one in the top row on the right side. What benefits can you see for the participation? Kai did a great job earlier of mentioning as we're going after sub-grantee participation. That is a key focus area. I believe 286 providers presented last time. Or participated last time. So if we can up that number to that attainable but yet still aggressive 400 that Kai mentioned earlier, we think we can do that. Representing the Community Action Partnership, and the sub-grantees. All of us on the energy team hope and wish and would encourage all the sub-grantees that can to participate. We'd like to see that number a lot higher. And the reason is that data is power. You know, the state grantees are going to get that data crunched by NREL back to them, but we're also, if you're a sub-grantee, you're going to get that information back to you. And I think one really cool key feature that Kai mentioned, and I want to maybe reinforce this, is that practice survey really allows you to gather the people within your organization, folks in the finance, fiscal, folks in HR, folks that are going to be actually pushing that submit button eventually. Get those people around the table, take a bit of time, and gather that data in a practice format so that when we do submit it, or you do submit it, it's out the door in a timely fashion. Kai also mentioned, you know, it's open a little bit longer. We would certainly hope that sub-grantees would take this time to, here in June and July, to gather the wagons and the data, the information, put it together and get it out. I know that the energy team here at NCAP will try to make sure we do our part as a partner to get that continually plugged within the various news outlets that we send out on a regular basis. And so I think the benefit for participation is the data you'll get back. The time invested yields, you know, nothing worth doing is worth doing until you can get the information back that you need. I think that Jeff did a great job also earlier as a panelist mentioning the benefits in Vermont. Now we're going to have longitudinal data, or we're in the process of having longitudinal data available to the sub-grantees over time. And that really builds the story, isn't it? It's about a story, that wage story for retaining quality workforce. Who's going to do this work in 8 to 10 years from now? Those, in many cases, those people are in their 9-12 high school arena or post-secondary. We need to think 8 to 10 years down the road, and without good data that this survey will provide us, we can't paint that picture of that quality workforce. You know, I'm trying to that slide that Kai shared earlier. I'm going to try to do my best here. See, competitive wages was number one. The good work culture was number two. Generous benefits was number three. I don't think I can come up with number four off the top of my head. Training programs and flexible scheduling. Though, you know, that whether you're in weatherization or some other industry workforce, those all are always in the top 5. So I'm really proud to be a part of this and support this. The entire energy team at NCAP is proud to support this in any way we can as well. And we'll look forward to seeing the rollout, number one, but most importantly, we'll look forward to seeing the data here at the finish line. So, Kai, thank you so much for allowing us to be a partner and to do our best to support this in any way we can here at NCAP. And I'll throw it back over to you, Kai.
Thank you, Chris. That was great. Anyone want to volunteer? Next national partner, speak briefly, and it's open for questions. If anybody else has questions to drive the conversation, please feel free to do so. I will call someone out if I have to. Allison, I know you had a couple of things you wanted to say also, and I think if we finish off with Pagan, it might be appropriate for the next couple of slides. So
sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Allison with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. We support the Weatherization Assistance Program in a number of different ways, and I have supported on a number of different workforce development related efforts over the last few years. In particular, I worked with a lot of the people that you see on the screen right now on a workforce development technical assistance offering over the last year. And I don't know that I have necessarily new information, but agreeing with everything that you've heard from everyone so far, that wages, while not the the only challenge or necessarily the primarily challenge. They are a challenge that comes up over and over and over again. You all are aware of it. We are aware of it. And part of that is just this very weird time we are all in sort of economically. So often, right, when you have stimulus funds that are coming to agencies such as weatherization agencies, that's happening during a recession and economic recessions when unemployment is high. And that is not where we are right now, right? Unemployment is very low. Costs of living are high, and that is just putting a lot of wage pressure at the very time when you are all trying to ramp up production. And it's just not what we have typically seen in other recession patterns. So, please take the time to fill out this survey. The last one that was done just was really, as you've heard, was really helpful to DOE, to people like NREL, to be able to talk about what things look like in weatherization and help people make decisions about things that they can do at the agency level or at the sort of policy level. Absolutely. I will also say that something definitely Jeff brought up, but was echoed by others on this call, is often when you're, as an agency, trying to decide if you can increase wages for either existing employees or for your new workers, the question comes up is like, how is it going to impact ACPU, right? Can we actually do this? Is this going to sink our program? Is this going to have a negative effect on production? Those are big questions, and they're very real questions. DOE and NREL are working together. We're sort of at the very early stages of this, but trying to develop a wage sensitivity calculator for ACPU for the Weatherization Assistance Program. So what this would do is it would be probably a spreadsheet, like it might not be a fancy calculator, but something that you can download where you can input cost, your sort of local cost data, and it'll basically tell you what, if you were to increase wages by $1, how does that affect your ACPU, $2, whatever it is you might be looking at, so that you can start to see. In some places, this varies a whole lot depending on different costs and things like that. But in some places, those wage increases may not have the scale of impact that it seems like it might. And so having a tool that can help you with those calculations may be really helpful. It's looking like a 2025 timeline for that. So just sort of keep it in the back of your mind. I know we've been talking about it over the last several months, but we will of course communicate it and blast it out. And it can be sort of a companion tool to all of the resources that Kai has been talking about, and Andrea and everyone that will live on NASCSP's website, and help you all in making decisions around wages. And that's really the value of this. We'll of course support NASCSP as we did in the past with any analysis needed to help with that data, or any, we help them with the wage flyers that were referenced, and we can of course help with those again. But anyway, glad to support this effort and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Allison. I think that's going to be a great tool, and I was going to put something in the chat, but I think I'll just say it. I think with that tool and the living wage calculator and having this data, at your hand, it really should make for an easy effort to make those decisions on where your pay should fall to be both fair and doable on the the agency level. Like, that's important. It's got to be doable. You don't want to put a program under trying to overpay or things like that. So and Pagan, do you have a few words for us? I haven't seen any questions or anything pop up.
I am happy to say hello to everyone today. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm Pagan Pajoni. I'm the Director of Strategic Workforce Engagement at the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. We have supported the Weatherization Assistance Program in a number of different ways over the years. Green Building's Career Map is an IREC published resource, which we updated with a section on weatherization assistance program rules specifically recently. So if you haven't had a chance to see that, check it out. We also do the IREC credentialing program, providing accreditation for training programs and certification for trainers. And I am the lead for our WAP Enhancement and Innovation Award from DOE, which has resulted in the Green Workforce Connect initiative, supporting outreach, recruitment, and engagement of diverse professionals and contractors, raising awareness about the job and contracting opportunities in the Weatherization Assistance Program across the country, and providing tools, resources, templates, and supports for the network to use in their outreach and engagement efforts to develop local talent pipelines for the amazing career pathways that y'all offer across the country. We have a number of resources that are available in the platform right now, but a key thing that we are doing is using the NASCSP wage survey data to demonstrate what the wages are for the 4 key weatherization field roles across the country. We're providing that on a national level and then also state-specific wages, which is a crucial piece of why subgrantees might want to consider joining in the NASCSP wage survey and providing information, because it allows us to create pages for your state and list wages for job seekers in your state. I'll say that the number one thing that we heard from actually not just job seekers and students in our listening session, but also really strongly from the advisory group that informed this project work, was that they want to know what they're getting into, and they want to know what are the advancement pathways within the Weatherization Assistance Program, and what kind of wages can they expect. So we heavily focus on sharing the wages up front and center for roles that are featured in Green Workforce Connect. So yeah, and we 100% support subgrantees participating in the wage survey this year.
Thank you, Pagan. Yeah, I think, and
I'll just say that we've timed the national rollout and expansion of Green Workforce Connect. Currently, we're piloting in Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. The national rollout begins in September, and it was intentionally timed with the survey so that we have those most up-to-date wages available for publishing in the platform.
and that's I mentioned earlier, for for those of you who are interested in onboarding to Green Workforce Connect and joining that platform, the quicker the better, getting this wage data in so we can make sure that everything's easy to build and ready to go when national rollout happens. I did switch to a slide here while Pagan was talking, just kind of highlight what she's talking about there. Their wages are so different across the country, and it could be, just cost of living differences, prevailing wage differences, whether there's unions involved or not. So it's important to get it a good nationwide picture. So I'll drive home. We're looking for as many of you to fill this out as possible so we can really, really have a great picture of what's happening nationwide and kind of do a deeper dive into that. For those grantees on the call, I specifically for grantees, but not necessarily. Subgrantees, feel free to shoot me an email and we can talk about that too. But if you're interested in joining Green Workforce Connect, there is a sign-up sheet. You can use the link here, or this QR code will also take you right there. And we are getting it. Oh, go ahead.
I will put contact information that subgrantees can use in the chat if they are interested in more information about the project and the resources available. And yeah, state grantees should use that.
Thank you, Pagan. This is really for state grantees. I'm reusing an old slide, but we are, trying to get the states onboarded and then the entire network within that state also. So but subgrantees, feel free to shoot an email to the contact info Pagan will share, and we will follow up on that. So now we are right on time. Q&A and next steps. So I want to open it up to the crowd and see. I did have a couple of questions that I could bring up that I've seen in the Q&A, but I wanted to make sure and open it up to everyone to see if anyone had questions, concerns, comments. Throw it at us now.
If you don't mind, I'd like to just start. I've seen a lot of questions about the ACPU, and I'd
Okay.
like to just offer a brief clarification. So the Department of Energy weatherization funds have an average cost per unit, and that is set in statute. And it would literally take an act of Congress to change it. Within the statute, DOE has been allowed to adjust, and that's an important word, adjust the ACPU to 3% or the consumer price index, whatever is smaller each year. So all of the national partners on this call, I know NCAP, ourselves, are making it a priority. NASCSP has been talking with several of our congressional and Senate champions over the last few months. Will be on the Hill in July. And our number one advocacy point is to raise the ACPU set in statute for the DOE program. But that's DOE. And as everyone who's hopefully read the annual funding surveys that we put out each year, weatherization from DOE is often the smallest of all the funding sources. That changed last year with the entrance of the bill funds, but you have the DOE funds, you have LIHEAP funds, and other funds, state utility funds. So in the last survey that we did, we found out that just over 88% of all grantees allow braiding. And NASCSP encourages this as a best practice, allow braiding of funds. So I think I wrote into the chat a very brief example, but let's say you used $8,000 of DOE funds and you had $8,000 over here of LIHEAP funds, and you put them together on a house. Effectively, you've just put $16,000 into that house. And on top of that, LIHEAP, because it's a block grant, does not have an average cost per unit unless you write it into your state plan. We just completed the analysis of 52 LIHEAP state plans with regards to Section 5, the weatherization, and for the few states that actually did put a cap on the LIHEAP to WAP transfer, that was at $12,000, just to let you know, which really helps inform and provide some data when we have meaningful conversations with members of Congress, because that's where we're hoping to get the ACPU stuck in statute on the DOE side at 6,500 to increase that to 12,000. So I just wanted to be clear about that. And I think a gentleman had already mentioned that that's not a cap. It's the average cost per unit. So you might have a unit that you do that's 10,000. You might have one that you do that's 6,000. But between all of your production, you have to average out and come in just under the ACPU for that program year. Hopefully that clears that up.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, and I know ACPU, just as touchy a subject as wages. So it was great for that clarification. I did have a Q&A come in earlier during the presentation. There are some differences. The question was, if you have a similar but not exact role listed, would you still, use that role? Oh, and I see a hand raised. I'll get right to that, Chase, I promise. So roles will have different titles. Along with the instructions that we've created for this, there is a brief page of very simple job descriptions that also has the AKA titles. An auditor may be called an assessor. Crew lead may be supervisor. Retro installer may be carpenter at some agencies. So there are different titles. We did consider that when we were creating the instructions, and there's a simple list there of all the positions we're looking for with their AKA titles and a brief description. So I hope that will clarify that a little bit. And then Chase, I saw you had a question. Whether I can unmute you, we will find out. There you are. All right, Chase, I've unmuted you. Feel free to speak up if you'd like.
Great. Thanks, Kai. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So I'm Chase Counts. I'm a consultant for NCAP, and we'll be shortly taking on an executive director role for Virginia's State Weatherization Association in a contract capacity. Andrea, I wanted to ask a question, something you mentioned in the chat about folks participating in the NASCSP 2024 wage survey gets you in a priority status with regards to the Green Workforce Connect. Could you say a little bit more about that? What is that priority status?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. NASCSP is a partner on the Enhancement and Innovation Grant for Workforce that IREC is running. Green Workforce Connect is one of the products from that project. And so one of the things, if you saw on the slide that Kai had up there, where Green Workforce Connect shows the wages, an average range for those states, we want to make sure that we've got that data. So in our conversations with our friends over at IREC, it was decided that we would prioritize some of the states that are going to onboard into Green Workforce Connect with the ones that are participating in the surveys. So they'll get a priority status and be onboarded sooner.
Okay,
I'll just
thank you.
add to that, Chase, if we don't have wages available for a state, we don't have the ability to add a state page supporting the Weatherization Assistance Program, because the platform is designed to share wages with job seekers and students. So it's going to be a challenge to add subgrantees in states where there is no wage survey data. So that's why we're saying that participation makes it easy to be part of the national rollout. We'll have to make some adjustments to our plans going forward, I think, that aren't necessary.
Does that entail do you need full participation among the subgrantee network in the state, or just a critical mass of some sort?
We need the outcomes of the NASCSP wage survey data, and that is the data that will be shared within the platform. So the more subgrantees that participate in a particular state, the more accurate the wages will be in that area.
Copy that. Thank you.
Pushing for 400, right, Kai? 400.
I am pushing for 400, and yeah, it would be best to have the entire network from each grantee. No, not bust. I'll take what I can get. But it would be best to have an entire network to have an actual accurate state level wage data average. Half of the agencies do it. It's not as great a data. We still got data, but it's just not as good. And we're wanting really that quality. And like Pagan said, it's really about this collaborative effort between us national partners, where IREC's not having to go and look for their own wage data. They're able to piggyback off of us and use that to help with this great Green Workforce Connect platform that they've got going on. I'm seeing more questions.
The NASCSP.
Oh, Andrea, I see.
NASCSP wage survey data is also, independent wage survey data like this is also much more accurate when it comes to some of these clean energy and energy efficiency roles, because if you use ONET codes that might be associated, you're not necessarily getting a clear picture of what the wages really are.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know a lot of folks are considering wages right now with all the Davis-Bacon coming around and BIL and all the different things. So it's a great time to start looking into this anyway, get an idea of what's going on in your network. So I like how Jeff, he said in the chat that he, for my grantees in the crowd, he's just going to require it, and allow TNTA to be spent at the state, and that helps me. That's the grantee participation there, and that was great. So we are running out of time. I did see a question from the chat that how hear more about the survey. I threw a registration link in earlier, but that registration link for the open office hour is also in these slides. Feel free to come to that open office hours. I will take all the folks on that we can talk about there. If you know of anyone who missed the webinar today, feel free to send them the open office hours. They can jump on there, ask any questions they may have. I also think, how to participate. There is some outreach materials. There are some, I'm clicking too many times. Here we go. Next steps. So, how to participate. I would recommend starting with our website. That would be, where all the resources are stored. You'll find the instructions, the fillable PDF, the outreach material, the how-to video. In the how-to video, that's where I really go into the survey itself and show, how to click next, how to, what logic may pop up, and some of the different detailed things about the survey itself that we just didn't have time to cover today. We are out of time, and I'm very surprised that we used the entire time, but it's great. I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to, encourage participation. Grantees, encourage your networks. Sub-grantees, please participate. Encourage your sister agencies to also participate. And a big thank you to our speakers. They were great. I love the collaborative effort that's going on in weatherization right now with all of our national partners, and the states are all working together, and we're really trying to make a lot of major changes in weatherization, and it's great to see. So thank you everyone again, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kai.
Thanks, y'all.